Welcome, everyone, to this week's second edition of OPP Watch as CF Montreal prepares themselves to face the New England Revolution. This week, we are joined by Caleb Pongratz from Prost Soccer and North American Soccer Reporters to give us a preview of the match Saturday night at Stade Saputo. Caleb, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you very much for having me. Really happy to be here and really happy to talk about this matchup.
Yeah, man. And honestly, I don't really talk to people that are from Boston because I grew up in Miami, and we have Miami fans, and I know this is the CF Montreal podcast, but I grew up in Miami, and Boston Miami fans just don't get along. But Montreal and Boston fans are no closer friends either. So
yeah, it kind of comes with it.
Exactly, and you know what? If we were able to get through a Toronto podcast, then I think we're okay for today. So let's get started. So 2024 was not New England's best year per se. What was the fans' vibes after that season, and what were their expectations heading into 2025?
Yeah, I mean, last season definitely was a difficult one for New England fans as a whole. Wasn't really a good entry point into the season. The Revs obviously had a difficult start to the year. I think they started 0-1-4, 0-1-3. So overall, the season didn't start off on the right foot, and a lot of fans were left frustrated from last year. I actually spoke to a lot of fans around the March point, and a couple of quotes. I have Luke from Plainville stated, knowing the statistics, this club never has performed worse. Under Porter, 26-6, 37 goals conceded in 41 games. He's done nothing to earn the respect or the cheer of New England faithful, and that's directly at Caleb Porter. And then keep going on. Fans said they started following the club when Bruce Arena was here, and ever since that situation happened, everything went downhill. Another one said started following the Revs in 19, downhill. So
yeah.
It was a bummer. It was disappointing because obviously coming off of the 2023 season, having a good season, going downhill, and then naming Caleb Porter in 24 and having a difficult start to that season, and going into this season now starting difficultly. Fans were upset. They wanted change, but since the beginning of the season, I think the club has kind of done a whole 360. They're in a good point, good part right now, and I think the results will come. They have been coming, and I think with more consistency and better closeout of matches, this team is 100% a playoff team.
Nice. And I do think it is kind of a tricky situation for New England, because New England, I think, I don't really follow them closely, but from afar, it looks like they've done a pretty decent job of being, like, say, holding on to their coaches and being patient with them. And that kind of attitude obviously brings some good, because you build the, like, as you said, the faithful following, right? Some people that blindly believe in a coach. While and when there's a change, obviously there's a big rebuttal, right? Where they're like, I like Bruce Arena's style. Why did we change? But whatever it may be, there's always change is hard. And CF Montreal, here in CF Montreal, there's change all the time, which means that you cannot have the faithful for anything. So there's a pros and cons to every side. But right now, while we're in the topic, how are the fans feeling so far about that change? Like, are they still hungover from the Bruce Arena era? Have they accepted the Caleb Porter into as their head coach per se?
Yeah, kind of just building off the back first prior with New England, and I love the comparison for Montreal because obviously I don't think Montreal in their history has had a coach that's gone more than 3 years. I think that's true.
That is a number.
New England's last 4 full-term coaches. You had Steve Nicol, who went 9 years. You had Jay Heaps that went 7 years. Brad Friedel went essentially a year and a third, and then Bruce went 4 and 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
And now Caleb Porter is now entering a year in his second third. So in all honesty, fans are still really upset with Bruce Arena's departure from the team. I'm going to reiterate, okay, because a lot of fans seem to mess it up. Bruce Arena was not fired by the New England Revolution, okay? He was suspended, and then after the investigation concluded, he resigned. Okay. So fans on their own accord are still very upset on his leaving of the group. But in all honesty, from what is known, very little is known in regard to it. But he shouldn't have been coaching. He should have been let go, in my opinion. But I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that because not a lot of info is public, and there's no need for it to be public. It's been done with. Time to move on. But it's kind of a mixed bag. Revs fans obviously are still upset over last year with Caleb Porter. So they have last year in the back of their mind, and obviously this New England team, like, they're still in 10th right now, but they have 2 games in hand, and if they win both of those games, they can jump up to 6th place. So that is a playoff team in the grand scheme of things. This year, they've done a lot better than last year. Currently have second, if not third best defense in the league in regards to goals against average compared to other teams. So he went out. This is finally his team. A lot of coaches in MLS have stated whenever they get a new team, it takes 3 transfer windows to get their team. And obviously this would be going into this season, or this summer window would be his 4th window. And I think confidently you can say this is Caleb Porter's team. So I think a lot of the fans need to come to realize that Bruce Arena is never coming back. He's not. So it's kind of time to transition and realize that Caleb Porter is the guy here. Caleb Porter is the coach, and based on his recent form, there's no reason why Caleb Porter would be let go from this team, in my opinion.
Makes absolute sense. And CF, here we talk about CF Montreal, and there's a lot of, CF Montreal on their own end has always tried to, pick players maybe that haven't had success in their teams or whatnot, and see if they can maybe revitalize their career with CF Montreal. And, there's 2 former Revs players in CF Montreal's roster right now: Giacomo Vrioni, our DP striker, and also Olga. I try to say this name as good as I can. Olga Escobar, or Olga Escobar.
Olga
Escobar, and who has just joined the team. So he hasn't played first team. We don't know much about him based on what we see in practice. What can you tell us? I know I just shot 2 names at you, but can you maybe just kind of break it down what you know about Giacomo Vrioni and Escobar?
Sure. Yeah, I'll start with Olger Escobar. So Olger, I believe, is still 18. 18-year-old, 5'10", 165 pound forward. He's a product of the Revolution Academy. He began his career with Revolution 2, where he has roughly 238 games played, right just above 1,250 minutes. So very talented player. He was named MLS Next Player of the Year for the 2022-23 season. And if I'm not mistaken, he won the MLS Next Cup twice with the Revolution Academy. So very talented player. He is also a product of Guatemala. With their national team, he has 7 senior appearances for them, has 1 goal and 2 assists for his national team. And then with Revs 2, he has 1 career goal, 1 assist, 6 yellow cards. So in the grand scheme of things, Olger Escobar, very talented player. Personally, I'm very, very upset that New England moved on from Olger. I think he's a player that had a lot of potential, to be honest with you. I think he's a good player that, with the right coaching and the right development, can go on the right path. And based on what he's done for his national team so far, I think if he keeps going with that trajectory, he's a player Montreal will probably move on from for a hefty fee. And I think he's a very talented player. And when I saw the number for, I think it came out to $125K in GAM, I was baffled. Baffled it was that low. Yeah. But overall, I think that's a great player for Montreal's future. And then on the opposing side, you have Giacomo Vrioni. So that trade happened in January. Was $50,000 in allocation money to New England. It opened a designated player slot and I believe an international roster slot. I don't know if he has his green card. I don't think he did. But overall, that was kind of like a salary dump move, I think, for New England. They wanted to get Giacomo off the books, and obviously that DP slot, they wanted to open it. again, makes sense. Giacomo, 26-year-old forward, 6'2", 185-pound forward from Italy. He represents Albania,
Albania, yeah.
however, at the national level. He's had a crazy career. Started in the Italian Serie D, played in the Serie A.
Yeah, but he kind of struggled a little bit in New England, right? Like there were, I think,
Yeah.
high expectations with the DP label. Was there a reason in particular? Was it maybe the scheme? Was it maybe him as a player? Was he overvalued? What happened with him in New England?
So in the grand scheme of things, he played for Juventus in 2020 to 2022, and then he was loaned to Austrian side WSG Tirol from 2021 to 22. And in his time with Tirol, I think in the numbers might be a little off, but I believe in 25 games he had 21 goals. So when you have a player like that in one season scoring 21 goals in Austria coming to the MLS, you have high expectations for your DP forward. And the Revs signed him for a fee up to $4 million in 22. And when he came to New England, he kind of struggled. He didn't really have a strong year. He struggled throughout the whole time, and he made 78 appearances for the club, and he only got 22 goals. So you take that in comparison to what he was coming into the club, where he scored 21, 22 goals in 25 games, and then you multiply his appearances times 3. That's not great. And it was interesting because in the beginning of the season, the sporting director spoke highly on Vrioni, that he was a part of this project. He's a player, he's a DP forward that's improved each year that he's been here, which is true. He went from 6 goals in his first season, 9 in his second, if I'm not mistaken, and then 12 because he was here 2022, 2023, and then 2024. But at the same time, that's not enough. It just isn't. You're a DP caliber player. And even the sporting director, Kurt Onalfo, stated DP players, you're expected 10, 15 goals from them. That's the bare minimum that you expect. And it was interesting that he came out and said this in a press conference to reporters, and then less than a week later traded him. So very interesting, very unfortunate situation. I know a lot of players in the Revolution clubhouse, specifically captain Carlos Gil, was extremely disappointed in this move. Carlos and Giacomo had a very strong relationship. During this season, when Carlos scored a goal, he celebrated a celebration for Giacomo's son, and then did a celebration for his own. And also when Giacomo scored, I believe his first or his second goal for Montreal, he did the same celebration. The celebration for his son, and then the celebration for Carlos' son. So it was unfortunate. I think this move, though, is good for both parties. I think Giacomo can go to Montreal, which he has so far, and he can kind of find himself as a player and kind of be the player that he needs to be without really weight on his shoulders. Because I feel like with the move, he has more freedom to act and work, whereas in New England, he was highly criticized almost every time he stepped on the field. And the move for New England essentially opens a DP roster slot and allows the team to go out and sign a DP. They've already signed a forward replacement for him, essentially, in Leo Campagna, but he's been dealing with injuries all season. So kind of unfortunate, but that DP spot still being open, huge for New England, and really can dictate the future of this team.
Awesome. And so let's focus on this season. So New England are 10th in the Eastern Conference, standing with 4 wins, 4 draws, and no losses. New England are on an 8-game unbeaten streak, with their last loss coming off on April 5th versus FC Cincinnati. How is Caleb Porter's second season at the helm going so far?
I think it's going really well. Obviously, the first half of the season, they started poorly. And then, as you stated, April 5th was their last loss. So currently with 5 wins, 5 draws, 4 losses. So sitting comfortably with 20 points through 14 games played for them. Almost every other team in the East has 16 games played. So New England's done really well. I think they started the season in a 4-2-3-1, and around that FC Cincinnati game, they transitioned into a 3-5-2 formation. And I think from the switch of the formation, the team has transitioned really well into a new shape, a new ideology, and they've done really well with it. As you mentioned as well, 8-game unbeaten streak. They currently have 14 goals allowed, which is tied for the second best in the league with Minnesota, also 14 goals allowed. And then Vancouver has 12 goals allowed. So hypothetically, the second best defense in the league, which is a huge, huge turning point from last year where this club allowed 74 goals last year.
Jesus.
So to go from 74 to 14 so far, very good change, very good difference. And obviously it comes with Caleb Porter's coaching, but also his signings for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And there's a lot of good stats there. That I mean, New England is. I mean, again, that sounds like a very, very good thing. And even when I just saying it, 8-game unbeaten streak sounds unreal. They're still in 10th place in the Eastern Conference. Is this a disappointment? Like, what do they need to do this season to consider it a success? What would be considered a failure this season for the Revolution?
I mean, in the grand scheme of things, this team needs to make the playoffs. And it's not a play-in game; it's a make the playoffs. This is a finish. I think it's seventh. Seventh is the comfortable playoff spot. Mm-hmm. But this team needs to make the playoffs. It just does. Again, New England five wins, 5 draws, 4 losses. They've struggled to hold on to wins. They should ideally have 4 more points than they have right now. In the grand scheme of things, because their game against Kansas City 2 weeks ago, last Saturday, I apologize, had a 2-0 lead, blew the 2-0 lead, and was down 3-2, and they had an 84th minute equalizer to tie the game. So they got lucky against Kansas City, so that's 2 points dropped there. And then yesterday, DC United, they're up 1-0, 91st minute. They probably let in the goal of the match day, but at the same time, that's another 2 points that you just let slip away due to falling apart right at the end of games. So I think overall, they need to make the playoffs, but if they fix the little things, they should easily make it.
Nice. So speaking of yesterday, Wednesday night, CF Montreal is coming off a terrible 4-2 defeat to Lionel Messi and company with the Inter Miami FC, and are still in last place in the Eastern Conference. How are the New England Revolution viewing this match on Saturday night?
I think it's different for fans and players to have their opinions. I think fans view this obviously as a trap game. I think the players also view it as a trap game. I've spoken to a lot of players across the league. Montreal is a very difficult place to play. Very difficult place to play on the road. And New England are hungry for it. They want the points. They want to win. They think this will be a close match, closer than you expect, and they're going to battle for it. Overall, you don't want to be in last place in the league. You don't. So Montreal players, they're going to be up for it as much as any other team. I think them and LA Galaxy, they go into every game thinking,
hey, for sure.
How much worse can this really get? And as long as they put 110%, any team's going to go there knowing that, hey, we got to be alive for this. And for New England in the bigger picture, this is their 3rd away game in 9 days. So legs are definitely going to be tired for them, but as long as they're tuned in, this should be a close game, but I think New England should sneak away with it.
Nice. And I did ask you to give us your predicted lineup for Saturday. Again, a lot of things can change, injuries or whatnot. We might have surprises. You did say that around the FC Cincinnati game, they changed to a 3-5-2, which looks like you this is what we're predicting. So at goalie, we'll have Aljaz Ivajic. Again, if I mess that name up, I'm so sorry. Wyatt Umsberg, Mamadou Fofana, Tanner Beeson on defense as the back 3. We had Matt Poster and Al-Hassafan Yusuf. On midfield, Peyton Miller, Eli Feingold.
Yes, Eli.
Eli Feingold as your wingbacks, and Carlos Hill as your 10, and Tomas Shankalai and Ignatius Ganago as your strikers. What can you tell us about this style and this lineup that New England likes to line up in?
Sure. Yeah. So obviously New England switched to a 3-5-2, kind of a very defensive sound group, but also heavy on the counterattacks. I think they are really good at flying numbers forward. A lot of the time, their center back, most likely Mamadou Fofana, when the ball progresses, he kind of sneaks forward as like a defensive midfielder. So it kind of at times becomes a 2-6-2-1, but when you sneak one of the center backs forward, one of your wing backs flies forward, so it becomes a 2-5-3, and so on and so on.
Yeah.
So usually 3-5-2, very counterattack based. New England, though, has improved very well with their possession very recently. So they like to hold the ball. They like their wide play. They like to take players on one-on-one, and then in your midfield at the 10, you have Carlos Heel. So he's probably, other than Messi, the strongest, maybe best 10 in the league. I think his numbers speak for itself. But at the same time, you have defensive midfielders behind in Matt Polster and Al-Hassan Yusuf, both who fly forward. They at times look like they're playing the cam next to Carlos. So New England likes to fly forward, but at the same time, this formation can be very easily exploited. Majority of the time, it comes with over the top through ball, and if the team doesn't transition the correct way, they can get exploited. Defensively, again, the group they attack in a 3-5-2. Defensively, defend kind of in a 5-4-1 or a 4-2-3-1, depending on the personnel and the effort and work level of the group. But when opposing teams are successful against New England, it's because they're overworking the group, mainly in the half spaces. So again, if you split the field in fifths, you have the center spot, the half spaces, then the wide spaces. Majority of the passes are done into the second and fourth sections, which are the half spaces. As the two CDMs, usually they will sit either together in the 1 and the 3 or the 3 and the 5, depending on how you look at it. But majority of the teams exploit them by playing inside to that half space and then bouncing to either an outside back or a 10 that switches the field or can beat the outside backs one-on-one. So defensively, if New England wins their 1v1 battles, should be a very sound game if they're defensively sound. But at the same time, if it's a game of margins and it comes down to turning off just for a second, you can very easily exploit this defense.
Absolutely. And I know you already touched on it a little bit, but we do like to ask our opponents, Caleb, give us the scoop, give us the scoop. What's the strength of this New England side that CF Montreal must really be careful for Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, the strongest players you really got to keep an eye on are Carlos Heel and Tomas Shankalai. Those are two players that, again, can take over a game. At the same time, you have a player, their wing backs are both really a right back and a left back. Like, they're not playing with their outside mids that they usually do. They're playing with a right back and a left back. But their two outside backs, Peyton Miller, who's 17, and Eli Feingold, who's 20, who's a U20 initiative, both of them extremely talented, can very much change a game. And I always say Peyton Miller is a player that can change the game at any moment. People think a 17-year-old here that you think, oh, it's a kid, like whatever. And then he completely dusts you. Once he turns 18, that kid's going to go to Europe and he's going to go for a hefty fee. Yeah. Reminds me a little bit of Tejan Buchanan, but also reminds me a bit of Alphonso Davies. He's just a player that can change the game like crazy. So those four are really the big ones. And then next to Tomas Shankala, you have Ignatius Ganago. So he's on loan right now from FC Nantes in Ligue 1, and if he's on loan, the loan should be extended in the next couple of weeks. But at the end of the year, if New England want to sign him full time, he will be a DP player. But he has not shown, in my opinion, that he is DP level at that point. He's got 1 goal and 2 assists, I believe, for New England. But again, another player that can just change the game at any instance. Overall, those are your threats. That front 5 of Miller, Feingold, Heel, Chancalay, and Ganago, very lethal. And defensively, Mamadou Fofana is probably going to be in the conversation. If New England does better, he's going to be in conversation for Defender of the Year. He's very talented.
Sorry.
Another player as well, Brian Ceballos, who's unfortunately out with a concussion for this game. Another player that would definitely be in that conversation. Both extremely talented defenders.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, Caleb, you got me super excited for this team that is
Yeah.
not CF Montreal. So great job at that. And just obviously nobody likes to talk about it, but what would be maybe some weaknesses that the CF Montreal could exploit? I know you kind of broke it down a little bit earlier with the spaces, but what would you say are some of the weaknesses?
Yeah, I mean, Montreal would need to beat New England on their transitional play and beat them in the half spaces. You have two players that Tanner Beeson obviously just he's done well. I don't know exactly, but I believe the Revs haven't lost a game with Tanner Beeson on the field
Okay.
this season. But Wyatt Omsberg, an aging player, I think he's 31, but he's the one sliding in for Brian Ceballos in at outside center back in this match. Brian would usually be there at that right side center back, but I think that's the only concern. But at the same time, Wyatt played on Wednesday and had a unreal game. I think he played really well. So the way that Montreal would have to beat New England would be through those half spaces and win their one-on-one battles for sure.
Yeah, and that's something that Montreal has struggled a lot with is those 1v1s. Not that they can't do it, but it's just sometimes the talent is lacking. So I know you mentioned a few names there, Caleb, but is there any name besides the obvious? You know, everybody knows the Carlos Hill or whatever. Is there a name? Is there a player that you want to watch out? You're watching. You're keeping your eye on for the New England Revolutions on a Saturday night.
A player from Montreal that they're gonna watch?
No, a player from New England that you're keeping your eye on. I know you mentioned a few names already.
Yeah, I think if he plays, Peyton Miller is obviously the biggest name. He got rested on Wednesday due to his workload, so that's why I expect him to start. If Peyton Miller doesn't start, it would be Brandon Bye. Brandon Bye last game got an assist to Eli Feingold, essentially. So you kind of got to look at those players that are battling for minutes. And I think with Peyton Miller, Brandon Bye, Eli Feingold, three outside backs battling for two spots, those guys are definitely the big ones to watch out for. And then Tomas Shankalai is coming back off the ACL, and he's done very well. He's got a goal this year. And again, he got his first last Saturday against Kansas City, and I think the floodgates are going to open. So that's That's the one you got to watch for sure.
Got you. And the fun part, what's your score prediction for Saturday?
I think 3-1. I think New England would win this game 3-1. And I think Montreal's goal is going to come from Giacomo Vrioni. I think that kid's going to be hungry.
Yeah. Talk about a chip on your shoulder, huh?
Yeah. I think Giacomo Vrioni is gonna score in this game. I would put money on it. I'm really confident. If he's healthy, I would put money on Giacomo. And I know he played 45 minutes against Miami.
Yes.
So I'm worried about Giacomo for the main perspective, but at the same time, I think New England, if they do all the right things, they should very easily handle this group. And I think again, Vrioni and probably who scored the two the other day, Sealy, is that who scored?
Dante Sealy,
yeah. Those are the two that I'm worried about. But at the same time, I think New England will very easily handle Tom Pierce, Jalen Neal.
Let's not talk
Waterman.
about that.
Yeah.
Does he celebrate? And would that piss you off?
Does Giacomo celebrate? I hope he does. I hope he scores, and I hope he celebrates. I think it's a little different if he celebrates in New England, but him in Montreal celebrating after a goal, I don't care. Again, I have a different mentality for specific players. If I was Giacomo, I would celebrate 100%. But it depends on how you are. Like if you gave 5-6 years at the club and were loved and appreciated and kind of contributed the whole way through, like, yeah, don't celebrate. Like, you have a history there. But Giacomo really, to be honest, he wasn't really respected. So
Yeah.
I have no problem with him celebrating. And personally, I hope if he scores, I hope he does.
Okay. Okay, you heard it here first. But usually we ask this for away games because we do have a lot of traveling fans that go watch our games, outside the country. Um, what would your best spot in town? It doesn't have to be near the stadium, or it could be near the stadium. But what is your best spot to eat in town?
In Boston,
And yeah, clam chowder. What are we talking about? Like, what's the best dish to eat?
personally, I love the North End. The North End is probably the best place for you to go and get food in Boston, in my opinion. A lot of Italian dishes in the North End. So
Nice.
uh, to name a few, you can go to Trattoria Il Panino, very good spot. If you want more of like a brunch spot, you got to go to Strega North End. Strega is unreal Italian food, all on Hanover Street, right in the North End.
All right.
Um, Again, you have the basic. You have Regina Pizzeria also there, unbelievable pizza, and I'll let people in on a little secret. Okay, everyone thinks
Scoop.
Everyone thinks Mike's Pastries is the best. No way. You gotta go. You gotta go to Bova's Bakery. Okay, it's about a block away. Bova's is way better than Mike's. It's not even close. It's not even close. Um, but those are definitely the go-tos. I think Carmelina's is a good spot over there. Assaggio, great spot. Panza, Giacomo's Restaurante is there as well.
You gave us a whole list, man. You
There,
don't even. They got good spots in Boston,
there.
man.
Yeah, you can go to any of those spots for any of your Italian dishes, and then on the waterfront, there's a couple of spots that you can go to.
That's awesome.
That you can definitely get good lobster, good clam chowder. Like it just depends on what type of food you're getting. But
Yeah.
I think those are the spots that I personally go to, and honestly, anything there is good.
Let's get it. All right, guys. You guys heard it here first. The spots, and you heard his own review on the bakery. So take that. All right, Caleb. Just to finish here, thank you so much for joining the Ball is Round in this edition of Op Watch. Where can our listeners find you for everything New England Revolution?
Sure. Yeah, you can find me on Twitter or X at Caleb Pongratz 10. That's CALEB PONGRATZ 10 on Twitter or X. You can find me on Blue Sky as well. It's just Caleb Pongratz at Blue Sky. I'm not going to spell my name again because you can just type it in.
It's in the screen.
Yeah, it's on the screen. It's on the screen. Just type that in at Blue Sky. I'm also posting on Substack, but majority of my work you can find at prostinternational.com. Once you're in there, you can go to other leagues, go over the MLS tab, Eastern Conference, click on the New England Revolution, or you'll also see my match recap if you click the CF Montreal tab as well. So anything New England, I cover a lot of other teams as well. I cover the new NWSL team, the Boston team. I believe it's Boston Legacy is their team name now. They changed it. I don't know if you've seen that. And then
I have not. That'll be another podcast.
Yes. And then USL Championship, I cover Rhode Island FC as well. So a lot of soccer as well as U.S. men's national team, but lots of soccer and always talking about scoops and talking soccer on social media.
Rhode Island now has a former CF Montreal player, Joe Quizera.
Jojo Quisera.
Yeah. He used to be part of CF. Wow. Okay, brought it back. Anyways, Thank you so much again. And as I always say, may the best team win.
Yes.